If you are a coach or a player, one of the best ways to improve your skills is to follow in the footsteps of those players and coaches who have made it happen. Welcome to the Adam Blitzer Show, dissecting high performance in tennis, digging deep to provide you with the tools, tips, and tricks to help you or your players advance to the next level. Here's your host, Adam Blitzer.
Hello and welcome to the show. In this episode, you're going to listen to Roberto Brogin. Roberto was on the tour for more than 20 years as a coach and has coached several top 100 ATP and WTA players. He has been the coach of the Uzbekistan Davis Cup team, leading them into the World Group. In 2006, he worked for the Chinese Tennis Federation with players as Li Na and Shang Shi. In 2009, he was specially assigned to work with Brogin Bouchards at the National Tennis Center in Canada. In this conversation, Brogin talks about why he thinks that you should never judge the future of a tennis player at the age of 18. He talks about why he especially likes Australian and Spanish tennis coaches. And at last, he talks about why you should watch Rafael Nadal's volley practicing sessions. Without further ado, please welcome Roberto Brogin. Roberto, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Hi, everybody.
Roberto, tell me about the steps you took with Bouchard in order for her to successfully transition from a junior to the professional circuit while working with her.
Well, I start with Eugenie when she was almost 14 years old. She was based in in Florida at the Saviano Academy, and then with her family, they decided to come back to Montreal, where we opened the National Training Center in 2007. So they moved to Florida because nothing was going on in Montreal. So they moved down there. But then as soon the Tennis Canada opened the National Training Center, so a lot of opportunities came for Canadian players. So they decided to move back. And we start to cooperate together almost at 14 years old. And she was, I must say, she was very determined person, although she was young, but the path was clear. So was easy for a coach to work with a player, especially in North America, where the university is waiting for them at 18 years old, but for them was clear. So we're going to go up to 21 years old and see what's going on, and then we'll draw a line, and we see if tennis can be a part of her life, good. Otherwise, she's gonna go at the university in Montreal. So we start to work, and things they were going well. Like she was very determined. She wants to be a pro, and she was working very hard, like 99% of the other athletes does. But she always gave this little bit more daily, like for her, traveling was never a problem. She was happy to travel, and she was big fighter, big competitor, like on court, off court. So we worked together for almost a couple of years. And I must say that probably in tennis, the most difficult part for a junior to become a pro is exactly the transition. Because, like they are good juniors, so they hang out with the best junior in the world for maybe a year and a half. And, because they don't have opportunities of playing pro tournaments because they're still young, they think that they are already good. So that's one of the problem coaches has with junior players, so to let them understand that junior is a transition program. So it's kind of like playing matches to learn the game, and then you get some compensation. But being number 1, number 3, number 5 in the world in junior, it means absolutely nothing. So it's just the fact that you play matches, and it's nice to be in a Grand Slams and winning a Grand Slam at 16, 17. It's the family's proud, the country. It makes rumors in the country. But like professional wise, it doesn't make any impact. If not the fact that you play matches. So playing matches, one official match, to my opinion, it has the same value of doing 10, 12 practice. So you do one official match is like 10, 12 practice because of the concentration, because the adrenaline, like they are there by themselves, they learn the game. So like there is nobody around, and I think this was the most tough part, So as soon as she get into the pro level, she did well. She did well. She started to compete on the small challengers. We had few in Canada, so she started really doing well, even on those tournaments. So the level was there, but because she played a lot of tennis in junior, so from age 14 to age 18, she was 4 times in Australia. She was 4 times in Roland Garros, 4 times in Wimbledon, 4 times US Open. So she basically knew what's going on. She played on those courts. She saw all those champions around, so it works on her head. This is inspire young people, like if you want to do this as a job, for future, this is like the biggest inspirational things you can have, to live like them, and I think this was one of the key for her.
So you said, if I'm just allowed to bring it back a bit, you said that she was very determined from a young age. What specific actions did you see that you could tell that she was just very determined?
Like decision wise, why off court and on court for a very young girl, sometimes I was surprised by the things she was saying, by the way she was acting. I give you example. For example, at age 15, she won the Pan American Games, which is held in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it's all the best, let's say, under 18 players, juniors, competing all together, American, Canadian, and she won the tournament on being very tough, playing like six matches, best of 3 sets, few indoor, few outdoor, was very cold, and she had a problem on her foot, and the doctor told her, like, you might get like a stress fracture if you keep going. And she didn't mind. She said, I want to play my final, and then somebody will take care of my foot. And that's exactly what happened. Like she went on court, of course, 7-6 in the third. She won the match, but then like we went to a doctor, and the doctor diagnosed a stress fracture, so she was out for 9 weeks. So like just a small example of how determined she was. She said, like, I don't mind having a broken foot, but this is my final. I want to win the tournament, and this is something that you have it in your life, in your head for like the whole time. It doesn't matter the age. You're gonna keep these things in your brain even when you will become professional. On a high level.
And then another thing that struck my attention was that you said, that the path was cleared for her. There was no college tennis, and then at 21 you could kind of see, is tennis an option? Oftentimes when I'm talking to parents or other coaches, they typically say at 18 they're kind of considering whether it's a good opportunity to go for the pros, or they're just going to be recreational tennis players. How come you were saying 21 years old?
Well, like tennis is changed. It's like, for example, in even 15 years ago, you could win a big tournament on being 16, 17, especially on females. But now it's rare or impossible for a girl 16, 17 years old winning like a WTA event. Even for the number one in the world junior, it's very difficult to achieve this kind of results. One, because the ladies now are never giving up. Like they're playing up to 34, 35 years old. Some of them, they are winning their first majors at 30 years old, like Schiavone, or, you had other girls, Tozur, other girls that they won the majors at 30, 31, and they are achieving very high results, very good results by age 32, 33, 34. So I think judging a girl or a boy at the age 18 is very inappropriate. And I think we have to give them a chance at least up to 21, 22, knowing that for the ATP players, like the highest peak is 27 years old. So if we stop a kid at 18, we can, we can cut off his dream of being a professional tennis player. And for the girls, maybe it's a little bit less, maybe 24, 23, but like 18, 19 it's too young. It's too young. So they have to be in a development. This is what we are talking as well at Tennis Canada, to help, to have a new philosophy and help kids at least up to 21 years old, because after you're investing money for like 10 years, then, you arrive 18 years old and suddenly, the results are not coming. So it's very easy to say, oh, you're not going to be good, but who knows? Nothing like, let's keep going another 2-3 years and maybe something will happen, more mature, more pro tournaments, more matches, and so on. So we really believe that age 21, supporting them until age 21 will be a great thing.
All right. So then you also said that the transition from junior to senior is probably the most difficult transition in tennis. And you mentioned that Bouchard, it was a very problem-free transition. She went from being a great junior into the seniors. And maybe one of the keys was that she was early out playing. She was playing Australia and US Open 4 times from 14 to 18. Do you think there was any other keys for her to make a successful transition?
There is no doubt that the financial component it's important, as like being tough and being like having winner character, and the financial has a big impact on the development of the athlete. So she was, like few other athletes, very lucky to have the federation behind them, who allow her to go 4 times as a junior in those Grand Slam with her coach. So this is this is a plus. I know that it's difficult for a lot of kids, for coming from other countries, and but definitely the financial aspect, it's something very good. We can't deny it. We can't say because I'm sure you have even good kids around the world, but unfortunately they don't have the same opportunities as those kids that they have. That they have federation behind them, believe on them, and sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not working. We had even investments that didn't go the right way. But when you're working in federation, it's more, you don't want to build a top 10 player. You want to build somebody can be able to reach 50 in the world, and then, who knows what's going to happen, so so the financial aspect, it's something very, very important in development.
And let's say I was a Canadian player and I was fairly good. I was supported by the federation. How would I get supported if I was a Canadian tennis player?
The national training center is based in Montreal. The very first, the one we opened in 2007. So then after that, 2 years later, we opened another national center in Toronto, who's taking care from the very young kids from 10 years old up to 14 for the region of Toronto in Ontario. And now, since 2 years, we opened the National Training Center in Vancouver, who's taking care of the kids for the West Coast, right? Because Canada is like huge country. So, of course, people from the West, they were complaining, why everything is going on the East and nothing on the West. So we decided to open the center. That's one of the reasons I moved here, having the experience of opening the one in Montreal. And basically, we start to help kids at age 10 over here. And we go up to 16, 17 with the girls and on. Like, let's call it junior program until 17. And then we get into a transition program. Okay. For the boys, we keep them from 10 until 14, 15 max. And the one that we think they have some potential, then we send them to Montreal. Because for boys, it's way more easy to travel and be away from the families than for the girls itself. So that's basically what's going on in the country. So when they come to the National Training Center, basically they have no expenses. So they train basically for free. Tennis Canada provide coaching, balls, and courts, and all their things, their fitness coach, physiotherapy, doctors. So when they travel, Tennis Canada cover around 60, 70% of the cost, and the 30%, it's the remaining cost is on the parents' shoulder. We want to give them a little bit the feeling of paying, because not getting the feeling that everything is for free, because it's not the real world. So like we let them feel, if you travel, yes, we cover A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, but you have to as well collaborate and pay this 25-30% remaining.
And how many players have you got in the junior program and in the transitional program as well?
It depends. It depends. Every year, every couple of years, there is a new generation, and but for example, like here in Vancouver, we have 18 kids. In Toronto, a bit less. They have around 12, 14. And in Montreal, because they're a little bit older, now they have a little bit less, let's say around 10. So we basically cover around 50 kids in the country, which is a lot, because all of them, they're traveling, and when you move from here, you have to go to Europe. It's so they start to travel at age 12. We got some competition in Europe. And then the very young one, they are going down to Florida for the ADR, the Orange Bowl. And then I like as well for the little bit older one, the 14, 15 years old, we have here on the West Coast a tournament called it a PNW, which are open tournaments, all ages. So it's very good to combine the junior, which basically 90% play the same way, and then combine with those open tournaments where like a guy 14 years old can play a man 35, 40 years old who is changing completely the game style. So they learn different things, different process, how to handle the match better. With the kids, they have a lot of presence, unforced errors. When you start to play a guy 40, 45 years older, maybe the ball is going a little bit slower, but the guy is not missing. So it makes you as a young guy, figure it out. How can I beat this guy? So it's a nice combination of things.
I'm changing themes a little bit, because at one point you were coaching the Uzbekistan Davis Cup team. Tell me the story of being the Davis Cup coach of Uzbekistan.
Yeah, so I was contacted by the sponsor that back in 1997 was helping all those players in Uzbekistan, which was one of the new former Russian Federation, right? So we moved there with another couple of foreigner coaches, and we started to coach all those kids, and they were pretty good. They were on the former USSR, so they were they were tough kids. They were like 17, 18 years old, but they were a little bit older in their mind, because they never played junior. They get into satellites and future at very young ages. So, the experience was not missing. What was missing was the financial part. So the sponsor want to give them the opportunity. So we went there, and some of the kids start to do well. So then I get into a good relation with the federation. So they proposed me to be coach of the team. So I was really honored, to accept it and be part of this team. So we had at that time we had Oleg Ogorodov, which was 100 in the world. In the same team, we had Vadim Kutsenko, that he was 130. We had Tomasevich, that he was around 250. Another couple of guys. It was a nice team. We end up in, if I don't remember well, I think it was 99 when we get down to relegation in September to be in the world group. And of course, we went to Australia and we lost 5-love, but was definitely a great experience for me and for them. Was very interesting to be in the team. Davis Cup, any country is good to be. There is nice chemistry, and it's nice what's going on. Like wherever you go, you get support. If you go away, you have the ambassador of the country coming, and watching, supporting. It's creating a nice feeling. Although you don't stay with the players all the time because you just focus on your player, the two players you have, but it's really a nice moment to be together, to be united, and to have a goal, which is winning the tie for the country. And they are very proud people, so it was very good. It was a life lesson even for me.
And now you're mentioning it yourself, life lesson. What do you think was the most important lesson you learned while being in Uzbekistan?
I think when I was there, I learned, it can sound like, like a big word, but I learned how to survive. they get it as a new country. They had nothing. So Russia cut them off, and they had no information. They had anything. They were just practicing the whole day because they couldn't go out of the country. They had no money, and so when we get there, we really saw kids starving. They really wanted to compete badly. It was like every match was a battle. Every practice was like taking the best we can out of every practice. And suddenly, they start winning. I remember when I went with Kutsenko in India and he won his first challenger, he was crying like we were in a central court of Wimbledon. He won a challenger, 25,000, and he was like, wow, like this. So you learn a lot, even how to, from these small things, like winning a challenger that you maybe as a coach, you already won few with your athletes, and then you see, like those kids are very, very humble and they want to succeed, they look forward for futures and all of them that I still in touch with them, they all set up their life. They all have family, some of them quit Uzbekistan, they went to Russia, some to Europe, some to Asia, but I could see, like potential was there, but they learn a lot because they came from nothing. They came from nothing, from no money, like playing with old balls, and was tough condition, very tough condition. And, like I learned a lot. People, they were living with very little money over there, and was a great experience. Like I'm still in touch with all of them. So just to tell you how attached I am to those people.
So how does that make you feel as a tennis coach and as a human that you're still in touch with them?
It's we were working together, but I know that as a coach you don't want to get too friendly with your athletes, but with them was different relation. Like we used to travel, for example, when we came to Europe for like 4 months in a row. So it was no day off, was like 24 hours a day. So you create this family, like relation, family feelings. It's not like, okay, Saturday you go home, we don't see you the weekend, like 2 tournaments, then you go back home. No, there was like every day, the whole day together. So we end up meeting with the families, with their parents, not all of them are coming from Tashkent, which is the capital. Some of them, they came from different cities. Going to see how those guys living was very interesting, So it's creating like a good family relation between me and them.
You obviously worked with players from many different nationalities. Tell me how you have adapted your coaching style to players from different cultural backgrounds.
Well, I think this one was another step in my life where I learned a lot. You basically you learn quickly, like yes, you can put your input into their tennis. You can definitely say whatever you think, whatever you have in your mind, up to your experience. But at the same time, you need to adapt yourself and know that you are dealing with adults already like 23, 25, 28 years old. That you don't have much time to make major changes technically, so you have to find a way of, when you are on the tour, like those players are very moody, like if you win, then they suddenly the brain gets open so you can work on few details. So this is the moment you as a coach, you have to intervene, and get there and start working. You have moments that you can't really work, and this moment can be even 3 months, like because maybe you come into a bad situation, 3 or 4 first round in a row, or something happened in a private life, like it's, you need to feel when it's the moment, like to put down the knife, or when it's the moment just to put the cream, like in this, you learn it quick. Some of them you learn, I always had in my mind that after a match, a coach has to speak with the player right away. This was kind of my philosophy, but then I realized that some of them, they just don't want, and even if you force them, they don't take anything out of your speech. So like it makes like waste of time, so you just maybe wait maybe 3 hours, you have dinner, and then maybe after dinner, like the brain is a little bit quiet down, and you found the moment, relaxing, sitting down in the lobby of the hotel, and, like you can easily speak with the player, and you will easily understand what's going on instead of speaking right away after a tough loss. But some of them, they want to speak right away. They want to know why. I don't say that it's better. I don't say it's worse. I just say it's different. So you adapt as a coach, you adapt yourself right away to all those different situations. As well can happen on court. On court, if you feel that the player, is hitting the ball nice and, the ball is going out nice from the strings, so you can right away, you can understand that the player is ready to absorb some words. It's ready to work the way you want. So in the other hand, if you see that, the player is struggling, because, every day is different, right? So you don't play the same tennis that you played yesterday, today, and tomorrow you won't play the same tennis you play today. So as well, you have to be quiet. You have to stay there and, be careful on the words you say. Sometimes it's more important what you don't say than what you say. So it's important to understand that. At the end of the day, you want the best for the player. So you have to set up his brain for like performing the best.
What is something very important to you within tennis that you have never talked about before?
What bothers me in tennis is when it gets to high level. When it gets to high level, it's bothered me a lot how some players, they are getting cocky because of the situation. They have people around that they are not sport people. They are people coming from business. So it's completely different world. So those kids, most of them are coming, especially in Europe. Those kids, they basically finish their high school, and what they do very well is to hit a yellow ball. So it's becoming complicated for them when they start to deal with a lot of money, to understand what's going on, and to always say thanks to the people they used to help you maybe 10, 15 years ago, and, respect everybody. So I felt that many of them, they kind of lose all those values. And it's a shame. It's a shame because, I always say money can't really shape you. You have to remain the person you are. Money can help you, but unfortunately, it's a business. So a lot of people are taking advantage of the cake. So everybody wants to be involved, and this is one thing that bothered me is the how they manage the money. And I'm sure there is always a better way to deal with the money. You have great guys that they are dealing well, but they are losing the focus. Some of them, they are losing the focus with the reality. Because of the money, they become like famous, and they lose the reality, the connection with the world. And this is a shame. This is a shame for me. This is something that I always talk about this to the players I work with, never change, no matter how much money you have in the bank account. It's the opposite, probably it's the opposite. You have to change in a better way, in a way that you can help other people, because I think at the end of the day, it will be good if those guys, they start to help even other people.
And do you think that more guys kind of lose their focus because of money, or is it equally so for the girls?
I think for the girls, it's even worse. It's even worse because they get into modeling stuff and photo shooting and sponsorship stuff. I have friends, that they work with top players, and I was myself over there, and I see how easily a woman can lose the focus on tennis. And without mentioning, but Eugenie is one of them. She get up there and suddenly, because of X reasons, a lot of people, they were around her, sponsors, and they all want a little bit of her time. So of course, the day is 24 hours, and, if before I used to practice twice a day, now because I have other duties, I have to give my time as well to sponsoring. So I think it's all linked, because a girl like Eugenie who did what she did 2 years ago on Grand Slams is not by luck. She did it because she had the level. And it's not a coincidence if after that, when she gets so famous and gets a celebrity, it suddenly the level disappear. But I can name other girls like, I don't know, Ivanovic. She was the same, number one in the world, and suddenly, it's losing the focus. But, you lose the focus and they are kind of disappear. They kind of disappear. You don't see them anymore in majors, and, it's like you see them, quarterfinal, sometimes semifinal, but, for a former number one in the world, I think it's pretty poor. And I'm sure, this is because of a lot of connection they have with sponsors and all the duties that they have to do, during their days.
So if you're sitting out there listening to this podcast and kind of wondering as a coach, so how do I create an environment in which I don't develop cocky players? How is it possible to do that, or what are you trying to do in your everyday work to create an environment where the players, of course, some of them will get cocky no matter what, but what are you trying to do in order for them not to get cocky?
Well, I believe the entourage of a tennis player is the most important, right? So you start with very few people in your team. When you start, you have your coach and probably your mom and your father. And then the better you get, the more people will get into this team. So the next person is going to be a physiotherapist, right? Or a masseur, which can help you to recover matches and stuff. And then after that, if you keep going on a positive way, probably a manager will get into the team. So at the same time, the parents are disappearing. They just become supporters. And so other people are taking over. So it's the ability of the player to understand who really wants the best for you and not for them. Because some managers, without naming anybody, they work for themselves, for their company, forgetting that they are working for a human being, for a kid. Maybe 21, 22, 24, 25, who never deal with money, who doesn't know much about, investments. The only good part is having parents that teach you good values, So this is something you will transport all your life. But when you start to have a relationship with businessmen, with managers, then, you live with them basically every day. You hear them every day. And so it's easy to go, somewhere else. It's easy to forget things. It's easy to, even sometimes you have players that they are listening more the manager than the coaches. When you start everything with your coach, you start having the first results, you start to count your first dollars with your coach. Being on the plane with your coach and having the fact sheet of the tournament, say, hey, I win $3,000, look. So, hey, I win $2,000, look, so you start from this, you share everything with the coach, and then suddenly, if everything is going well after a few years, the coach, is not aware anymore about how much money you win, because the managers, they are taking over. So all the financial aspect is belong to them. So you have very, very few players that they let the coach doing everything from A to Z, but very few, and they almost disappear.
So when looking for a manager or an agent as a player, what should you look out for?
Well, I think when you start the process is start at early age. I always like to aiming where we're going, what we're doing, where we're going, from young age, to explain them, that at some point tennis is not anymore for recreational. If you want to play high level, the tournaments, where we're supposed to go, what you're supposed to play at this age, at that age, give the right signals, the right inputs, the good values, and I always tell players that you don't play tennis for money. You play tennis because there is a big passion inside of you. You love to go on the court, and, no matter how much money you have, no matter, it's because if you play tennis for money, forget about it. You can have 1 year, 2 years, but you suffer because it's not an easy sport, because it's difficult, like it's, like there are worse works in the world than tennis, but tennis is a tough job. Tennis is indeed a tough job, like it's a travel every single week. It's training no matter where you are in the world, and everybody getting better. So you better get better. And, you are on the plane the whole day. You are checking in and checking out from hotels every single week. You don't spend time with your parents, although you have enough funds to bring your parents with you. So it's not an easy life. So you always try to teach them. Those are, for me, are the good values. No much money you have, you always stay the same. You're aiming to become a better tennis player. When you go on the court, you give 100%. When you get out, you have no regrets. I feel fine with me. You treat people well. This is for me my philosophy. And when I see, for example, a guy like Roger Federer being at his age, 34, like almost 35, fighting, and no matter how much money he has in his bank accounts, it's no matter. When he's going there, he looks like 20 years old, trying to play his best and trying to beat his opponent. And the same you can see on Nadal or Murray. Those guys, their bank accounts are filled up. They don't mind about money. What they want to do is beating opponents and writing history. That's what I want to do. You see Federer, he's not playing now. He's out until January. But, whenever he speaks, he say, I want to get better. I want to be ready for January. Like this is like inspirational for young kids to say, wow, 34 years old, the guy, he won everything. What left for him to win? There's nothing. It's not easy, but his love for the tennis, his love for passion, he loves it. He loves it. Like when journalists are asking him, when you're going to retire, why should I retire? I love it. Why should I retire? Like, so it's funny, but, at the end of the day, that's the message that, like a lot of players, they should listen to.
All right, Roberto, I'm going to change gears a little bit and go into some rapid fire questions. Doesn't have to be rapid fire answers. So being a coach for several ATP and WTA players, what have you been most surprised at?
Honestly, I was ready for everything.
Yeah.
I said to myself, I'm going to a jungle, because the ATP and the WTA is a jungle. So you better find a way to survive, because there are a lot of people, they want to be in this circus, and you need to find a way, and when I start, I was lucky that I met a lot of good people, and I met coaches that gave me advices. And I was lucky because I found myself on all the Grand Slams suddenly as a coach. And yes, I was lucky for my life. I invest a lot on myself. I was going everywhere to watch how those coaches, older than me and with better results than me, they were working. I sit in the corner and I was watching, how they were working, how they were speaking. And the beauty is that you can see a coach from South America, and then during the same day you can see a coach from Asia, and in the same day you can see a coach from Czech Republic, and in the same day you can speak with a coach from Washington. So it's like you can mix up all cultures, all different ways of working, talking, behaving, and all of them for the same purpose of playing better tennis. So this, I think, you become rich as a coach mentally, you get a lot of ideas. Some of them, most of them are very good. Some of them you just look, you try. If you don't like, you throw them. But at the end of the day, you, as a coach, you become very rich mentally.
What is the very best part about being a tour coach?
Well, first of all, it's, as I said before, it's a tough job, but at the end of the day, you're traveling around the world. So suddenly you found yourself in Australia, when as a kid you used to see this tournament and say, wow, I wish one day, the central court of Wimbledon, sitting in the Royal Box, or in the US Open, or whatever, any other tournament, I think that's the beauty of being a tour coach is, dealing with a lot of different nationalities, meeting a lot of players, and see and understand that there is not only one way to succeed. Like when you get out from your country, you think, oh, this is the way, this is the way, this is the way. And then suddenly when you're there after 2 3 years, you realize, oh, this one, it doesn't really do what I'm doing, but he's still a good player. So it's mean that probably there is another way. Oh, and this guy too, there is another way. So there are like multiple ways of success. And this is the beauty. You learn unconsciously, but you learn a lot from all these situations. You learn how disciplined are the women on the tour. They are very disciplined. It's amazing. When I start, so you had a lot of women that they didn't care much about their own body. They were talented players, yes, but they didn't care about the body. We didn't have any physiotherapist on the WTA tour. And then suddenly you go on the tour right now, you see every top girl has at least 3 or 4 people on the team. The coach, the fitness coach, the physiotherapist. So you see all those girls right now, they're all very fit. They're all taking care of their own body. Like less and less people are getting injured because of they're taking care. They have a big team, so physiotherapist is with them the whole time. The medicine itself, get into tennis. All those girls, they are in touch with doctors daily. So you have less and less injuries than before, if you notice. And players, they are playing for longer. So the beauty is to watch how things develop during the last 20 years. From where I start up to now.
What is the single most important characteristic you look for in a tennis player?
Well, as I said before, I think the commitment is probably the most important part. So if your player is committed, and when I say committed, it's like 360, right? It's committed to anything. Like I was dealing the other day with a guy who was telling me, like I feel I can play better, I feel I can really play high level. And then I told him, yes, but when I ask you to go and serve at the end of the day for another 20 minutes, you told me that you were tired. Yeah, but I was really tired. I know you were tired, but that's why I asked you to go for another 15, 20 minutes serve, because I want to check your reaction. And he was kind of like surprised. I said, well, you tested me. No, I said, I'm not testing you. I just want to see how committed you are, because you give yourself an answer by yourself. I think I can be a good player, but at the same time, I cannot do this 15 extra minutes serve at the end of the day. That's why. That's one of the reasons. I'm not saying it's the reason, but it's probably one of the reasons. So it's, for me, when you say committed, it's committed to everything. And those guys, they have to in a way, like when you start the activity, 19, 20 years old, you play today in Canada, but maybe you get a special exam and the only tournament you can play is in Asia. So you start the activity, you have to be ready tomorrow to take the first flight and going to Beijing or wherever it is. So this is another part on being committed. Or like swallowing the words of the coach. Sometimes you don't like the words of the coach, but you're committed. And you know that this guy wants the best for you. So you swallow it, or I don't know, many other issues, but for me, the most important is to be committed and engaged on what you do.
How do you go about getting better as a coach?
Well, it's probably the best words for me is to be humble. So being a coach, you never stop learning. It's an ongoing learning process. Right now I look up those older coaches than me, that they have higher experiences than me, and every time I had a chance to speak with them, I take every single word as like, wow, I learned something. This is another few $100,000 going to my brain. I learn more, and I feel they want to share. The older you get, I feel that those coaches, they want to share their experience with you. And in a way, it's like a challenge. See if you can do the same I did. They challenge you, even as a coach. And I think I met a lot of good coaches, and what they had in common was being humble.
What persons or books has inspired you the most as a tennis coach?
I must say I read few books, and I don't have one book in particular. I like all the sport stories, no matter what's the sport, golf, tennis, basketball, whatever. I prefer as a person to have like a face-to-face contact with a person to get inspired, you know. And I I liked a lot the mentality of the Australian coaches and as well Spanish.
Yeah.
As I say before, you know, they are. I see a high level of being humble, and they live for tennis. They talk about tennis the all day, and they never get tired. So they want to get better. They want to get better all the time. It's an ongoing process. They want to get better, no matter, you know, like the new guy is coming, so they sit together and they say, well, look at this guy, what he has good, what he doesn't have good, and where we can find a weak spot and where we can find a weakness. And, you know, like one of the coaches who really inspired me the most was Tony Roche, back when he was working with Ivan Lendl, and as well when he got captain of the Australian Davis Cup team, and as well when he was with all the Aussie players. You know, I like it as a person and as a coach. That's where I found this sentence that I said before. Sometimes it's more important what you don't say than what you say. You know, he was saying that when he was working with Lendl. Yeah, sometimes it's better you don't talk. The player appreciate more. You know, but I think all of them, they have in common this humble thing.
What is the most valuable lesson you learned being in the world of tennis?
Ooh. Probably few lessons. Well, I have to give back a lot to tennis, because tennis is what gave me all I have, which means like my beautiful family. You know, without tennis, I would probably not have the connection for meeting my wife, and now my wife, now my kids, and the situation, the very nice situation I have right now living in Canada, this beautiful country, and having your own house, you know, with your own family, you know, and this is all thanks to tennis, you know, and I have to give back a lot to tennis. So that's why I'm never tired of being on course with the young athletes.
Next question is a little bit tricky, but try your best. What are the things that you believe that everyone else think is crazy?
Well, I can give you like small example. For example, like I'm when I was on the tour, for me was an habit to book a flight ticket today, being in Rome, for to be tomorrow in Melbourne, because sometimes this is what happened, right? So when I was talking to people, come on, tomorrow, really, you're leaving tomorrow to Melbourne? I said, yeah, tomorrow I'm going, you know. Like, so people at home, you realize they need 3 weeks to organize, you know, like all their stuff, you know, set up the brain, you know, or like I don't know, like having like a practice on 9 p.m. No, you know, 9 p.m. Yeah, we go now, 9 p.m. You just train the flexibility you have in your brain, you know, because you need to be very flexible to be a player and to be a coach. The brain has to be very flexible. That's one of the reasons why at very young age I let young people playing with older people and vice versa. You know, like I don't like when my daughter, she's good, so she has to play only with the good ones. I say, no, your daughter, she has to play with everybody. She has to be able to face everybody, you know, like, and the same for boys, you know. No, but my boy, you know, like this guy is not so good. No, he's good enough. Believe me, he's good enough. You know, this is being flexible. Nothing will bother you later on. But if you start from young age on having barriers, you know, oh yes, this no, this yes, this no, then it's getting complicated. And you know, you are a world traveler, you know, so no barriers, you know, like you like everybody, you need to like everybody opponents, everybody are competitors, but at the end of the day, you are dealing with like with all races in the world. And probably this is one of the most, I would say, like best beauty things you have on the ATP tour. Like it's, you can talk like about any religion, about any races, about like rich people, poor people. We are all on the same boat. And we try to survive all on the same boat. So this is the beauty. A few years ago you had like an Israeli kid playing double with a Pakistani, which make big rumor in the country. But for them, they were laughing. Was totally fine. There is no problem. What is the problem? So I wish a lot of people, they were thinking like, damn, to be open-minded. We feel good together. We can go on court and we can win the match, like instead of putting barriers, like it's, and this in many other subjects. You see, I don't know, a coach from South America working with a Swedish guy. You say how they can match together. One guy is like eating dinner at midnight and the other guy is eating dinner at 5 p.m. How they can go together? It's, yeah, but at some point they found a way to get together, and, to share what they have to share together and to get better together. Like it's in the world, in the tennis world, you have a lot of those situations, where you need to adapt yourself, no barriers, and then everything is going to be good.
What do you consider the biggest waste of time or biggest myth in tennis?
This is I think it's concerning a lot the young people, the young players. Like it's a lot of families. They are building themselves movies, out of it. Like they see the kid playing tennis and like you have maybe coaches, local coaches, without taking nothing away from them, but maybe not giving the right message to the families. It's, he's a good player, so let's make more private lessons and let's, like it's maybe, she can go and play the ATP, the WTA, like it's, I think 90% of the parents, they don't know. So of course, they jump in this world. They say, oh, really? You think my daughter can play WTA? Oh, yeah. So I think this is waste of money and waste of time, and I think for boys now, as I said before, we need to get longer. We need to help them up to 21, 22 years old. They need to find a way because it's very difficult. It's very difficult. The window is very small. When I'm going to junior tournaments and you see a draw 64 and you say, wow, maybe out of these 64, 3 girls has a chance to make it in the pros, but they all know how to play tennis. They all know how to play tennis, but then, other factors, they jump in, like pressure from family and pressure, like from different things and injuries and, like having wrong idea of easy life, going there and winning a lot of money. Yes, there is a lot of money, but, like there are as well at the same time a lot of players that they want to share the cake, and like this week, for example, I was in Tacoma in Washington State, and I took the kids playing an open tournament. So open tournaments is all ages, and when you sit there, you see guy 30 years old playing amazing, really playing good tennis, and then you realize, imagine most of the city they have those kind of tournaments. So imagine how many tennis players there are in the world, and because people are easily complaining, the fact they say only 100 people makes money in ATP Tour, and in basketball you have, I don't know, like thousands of people in the world making money. But in tennis, it's a very, very limited number of people making money, because tennis players are everywhere. Every city you have tennis players, like everywhere in the world you have tennis players. So it's not that easy like people think, to be, you're going to be a tennis player. In the WTA is very easy. It's not easy at all. It's not easy at all. It's getting more difficult because, first of all, those players are playing longer until 35. They all like fit. They all have money. You don't have money. You don't have the team. You have to build everything. You need to be very good. Like it's difficult in a way, but in the other hand, it's like stimulating. It's like you need to find the motivation to go and say, yeah, like I had the chance, for example, 3 or 4 years ago, I had a girl from Toronto, and because I'm originally from Italy, So at the Rogers Cup in Toronto, I made my little goal, my little player working an hour with Schiavone. That she recently won the Roland Garros, and this was the best practice ever. She played an hour. She probably missed 3 balls in an hour. Her heart beating was probably 250, being on the court with Schiavone, and she enjoyed every single second, and she's still speaking about it. This is the things can make you rich in tennis.
What have you changed your mind about the last couple of years?
I change my mind more frequently, I think, than 2 years. It's as I said before. Sometimes you believe on something, and then suddenly you realize, on being there, being on those big tournaments, that oh, this is good, but I think this can be even better. It's, of course, you need to have your firm, opinion, your ideas, but at the same time, you need to be flexible. Flexibility is the best. You think this is the way the volley should be played, but then you go in a big tournament and you see a coach making a drill with somebody and say, really? Is this work? And then you say, well, probably this guy is one of the best volley player in the world. When you see Tony Nadal working with Rafa about his volleys, that 10 years ago he didn't have any volley, this kid. So it's better you go there and you watch the way they're training the volleys, because right now he's the guy who's missing less volley on the ATP. Although it sounds strange from Nadal, but this is numbers. It's not number that I'm taking up. I'm checking the ATP statistics, and he's the one who is missing less ball in the match. And he's coming to the net way more often than 10 years ago. So there is a lot of work behind. And, he improved a lot, this kid, like most of them. Flexibility, right?
You obviously have been in the world of high-performance tennis for quite some years already. What has become more important and what has become less important for you as you have gotten older?
Well, I'm a tennis coach, so the word itself, it means we transported players to give their best. All right. So I had, as a coach, I had some good results, but I never sit on them. It was just kind of a stimulation. Okay, a little bit more. Let's see, let's discover the limits. Let's push another step. And I think as a coach, it's where you need to aiming. It's on sitting on those Grand Slam center courts. When you sit there, you probably can say to yourself, I did something good in the world of tennis as a coach and for my players. And if you had the chance to be there with several players, even better. But at the end of the day, what makes me good, I think, is the fact of listening a lot, not being afraid to speak. Although sometimes, you make, you're saying some stupid stuff, but it's that's for me how you learn. Not being afraid of asking, because if you don't ask, you will never get. Right. So if you have a chance to go on those big tournaments, and right now, I don't know, you see Riccardo Piatti, which is one of the most highest coach right now, you have no shame. Go and say, listen, what do you think about? I'm sure he will answer you. He will tell you what he thinks. Because he will never come to you and say, hey, listen, Adam, do this. But if you go to him, I'm sure he will give you tips, because as I said before, the older you get, the more you want to share with others, and this is a good thing.
If you could give one advice for coaches, players, or parents listening, what would that be?
This is a good question. I think I hear a lot of coaches saying, oh, this mom or this dad, they are too much involved, and, it's not possible to work together, and, they just gave bad signal to the player, they get very nervous when they see the parents. I think at the end of the day, on being parent right now, you need to understand as a coach that the parents, they will always be there. So they will always be there, no matter what. No matter the kid will go to the coach and say, listen, my dad it's really a pain in the butt, like it's just talking about tennis and, like, so the father as the mother is part of the team. And you as a coach is better, like you understand that. Because you will never manage as a coach to put the father and the mother out of the team because you are working with their kid. So it's better you found a solution and say, okay, this is how far you can go as a father, how far you can go as a mother. This is my competences. This is your competences. But we have the same goal, is to put your kid up there. But that has to be clear which one is the duty of the coach and which one is the duty of the parents. If you never talk, then if you mix everything, then suddenly you will go to a club and you will see the father feeding the ball to the player. Although you told the player the day before to have a day off, right? So if everybody know their own duty, I think it will be much better. And you as a coach, you will go home not like without any frustration, and the job is going to be more easy. I know sometimes it's difficult because parents are very emotional, right? So when they go down to speak about their kids, they speak more with their heart than with their brain, because it's their kids. It's normal. You want the best. You want the best. Not that the coach doesn't want, but they mixed it up. The heart, the brain, only the heart, only the brain, so I think the coach has like a key role. He has to dictate, this is you, this is me, and this is the player. So for each one is clear what they have to do. And in most of the cases is going well instead of having fights or not talking, or because then the player is going to feel it. Oh no, my coach is not talking to my mom, he's talking trash. It's not good. It's not good. It's not working. On the long run, you as a coach, you're going to lose. And the parents, they're going to take the kid and give it to another coach.
Roberto, I want to be respectful of your time. But before we wrap up, if people out there want to get to know you and your work better, where can they do so?
I think on the GPTCA there is my contact. There's my email contact there and few information about what I did. And I stepped up lately from the ATP and WTA because I didn't want to do things half. So if you want to have a family, it's complicated the way I want. I'm not saying that it's complicated for everybody, but for the way I want, having a family is it's being together for part of the year. And when you are on the tour, I know you, Adam, you're ready for 35 weeks, but I'm not anymore ready for 35 weeks on the tour. It's a choice. You need to choose. I want to go there. I want to do this. I want to do that. So that's why I step down and I say, okay, I want to looking for. I want to stay in tennis world on the high level, but I need to find a better position. So that's why 10 years ago I ended up in Canada working for Federation and working with the best junior of the country. I'm still traveling. I'm still going to Grand Slams. I'm going to junior tournaments. I'm going to different competition, but I travel way less than before. It's just you choose to do that. But it's the tennis remain always. Like why I wake up in the morning, I say, okay, I'm going on the court this morning. It's just different level.
Fantastic. Anything you want to add before we finish off?
I think coaches wise, I think the level lately is way higher than what used to be. I think ITF, send a lot of good message around the world, having all these symposiums, and a lot of people are getting involved. And I don't see this as too many people now. We have to share the cake with more. I think it's fantastic. I think we can have different opinions. I think we can share ideas, because there are no secret in tennis. There is no. People think that they know better than the others. There is no secret. I can tell you that after 25 years on the tour, there is no secrets. You can have a little bit better tip than this one, or the head of the racket a little bit faster, but at the end of the day, there are no secrets. The secret is to have a tennis court with balls, going there and be committed. This is the message that I feel like to send to young coaches, without thinking, oh, this one is better, this one, no, it's everybody start the same. I was recently in Valencia, at the academy of Juan Carlos Ferrero. I'm a good friend with former coach Antonio, and one day he took me to the village where Juan Carlos coming from. It's probably like a village of maybe 20,000 people, very small village, near Vienna. And he told me, yeah, he's coming from here. He was coming to the club every day with his mom, and then he came, and then suddenly I took over, because a tragedy happened in his family, and I was taking him every day up and down, and suddenly, out of nowhere, number one in the world. So has he become number one in the world? The coach became number one in the world, right? Because he was there since a young age. This for me is one of those amazing relation in tennis. Starting from basically zero, from the young academies, from hitting like balls, 2-3 times a week, to make the living, a good living, because of tennis, winning Roland Garros, being number one in the world. And you don't have many of those relations, unfortunately, but all of them, I know a few others. I know Larry Passos did the same with Guga, from 14 years old, and so meeting themselves at the train station. What you doing? I play tennis. Oh, I'm a tennis coach. Where you live? You live close by, so come over, and suddenly, bam, number one in the world, winning Roland Garros several times. And you have Michael Yuzhny having the same coach since very young age, but you don't have, this is different mentality. Those guys, they are special. And somehow they are special. They believe the coach is good. And like what makes the difference, it's me. Like this is exactly what Nadal say. What makes the difference is me. If my uncle brought me to number one in the world, why should I change? Why should I change coach? To have better vision? At the end of the day, it's me playing tennis. I know exactly that I can be a little bit more aggressive. Sometimes my forehand doesn't go, because people forget that, oh, he doesn't know. He knows. Nadal knows. No worry. Nadal knows. Everybody knows. They know better than us. But they believe that the uncle did a good job, and he will do a good job later on. Like most of those guys, and then for me it's sad when you see a player changing coaches every 2 months, the coach, this one didn't give me the right input, it's at the end of the day, the coach has like 20% of impact. The rest is what you do, commitment, going on the court and put your heart there.
Roberto, it's been absolutely fantastic to have you on the show. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you, Adam.
If you want more of The Adam Blitzer Show, you can subscribe on iTunes or go to adamblitzer.com to find show notes for each episode. Dig into tools, tricks, and how-to guides on the blog. Follow Adam on Twitter, Instagram, or Snapchat at Adam Blitzer. It's ADAMBLICHER. Until next time, thanks for listening.